I can't even log in. I bought a lot of new stuff. Actually, yeah, you kind of could. Like, I'm actually like if we gave actually like the list.
Oh, Uber's going up. Oh, yes. Are you in down?
Yeah. Wait, what is that? Oh, you can.
No,
But
but
you're
went up so
you're
much.
yeah. You got this Friday.
Went up like 2 years. I'm back
Oh,
up.
that sucks.
Okay, but how am I supposed to catch up to that?
Well, like it's our island is yeah. Yeah, we do it.
I'm right there.
This is my third.
It's so goofy.
Yeah. Okay, I really can't.
Oh, it's 6. Oh, that's a long ass time. No, the last game like
Okay, it's not far away.
yeah, okay, it's all that fun.
If we just say,
Okay.
No,
This is so cute.
I don't think like snowboarding is one of the
these are way.
Cause it's manly.
yeah.
Wait.
I don't know what's up with it.
Okay, notebook's out. And I'm going to turn the lights functionally away. Apologies if you need to get set up for any food stuff. I don't know if I like that, the giant row across the middle of the room. We'll keep it for now. I reserve the right to vault over it if necessary. Last day. We have done a number of scenarios, and you evaluated each other on deontology. We'll do maybe something similar when we combine both utilitarianism and deontology. We've done 2 types, act and rule. I read to you a humorous, with lots of swearing perhaps, summary of the bridge problem that was brought up first by Peter Singer. And I don't think we did this. Did we do this? This is the summary of act and rule utilitarianism. Act and rule. So act, look at it in the moment. What is the greatest good that we can do right now with everything that's available to us? Rule says we should consider the future. What's the best rule we can come up with so that we continue doing good the whole time? It might be bad in the moment, because if we allow it, things will go on to be worse. Was there a hand up there? Good, okay. Oh yeah, I did do that because then we did these. So looked at a couple rules. This would be an example of rule versus act utilitarianism. Firefighter faces punishment for driving burned patient to the hospital. Because, of course, firefighters aren't allowed to drive patients to hospitals because they're not adequately trained to act as an ambulance. And so the rule is they are not allowed. You face penalties in your job if you do. Anybody who reads that story is acting as an act utilitarian and says, in that moment, that was the best thing to do. Yes, but if we set up our rules that way, over time that could create to much worse outcomes because we don't want people randomly deciding when they're not qualified to take people to the hospital. And the last thing we left off was measuring the good. I just asked you to put all your laptops away, and I'm about to ask you to get them back out again. because last I said, how are you going to measure the good? I would like you to find me a way online, a measure that you can find that say this proves that this country is better than that country, this school is better than that school. How would you measure the good? I would like some examples. Talk to the people next to you. Find me some examples. And let's make it easy for me to share. Who is smacking their computer really hard? Ah. Okay, find me an example. I made it into assignment. It's worth 10,000 marks. Yeah, you can just put any amount of marks and they don't stop you. And it's due we're in February. And time. What time is it right now? 9:40. 9:50. Go. This is just so that I can easily share it, and we can take a look at some of these, and then talk about what type of good you are defining.
Mr. Neufeld,
Yeah.
did the yellow pencils that you put in those baskets, do you like make them all have cracked lead as like a statement for why you should bring your own pencils?
No.
'Cause it
I
looks like
bought them
terrible.
from the school store, and I've been told by my grade 12s that the school store pencils feel like they've been jumped on by somebody at some point and thoroughly cracked. Is this a true observation, or did I just get a bad batch? No. Some people are nodding. Yeah. And that is also one of those things I would never go, because I don't use those pencils. I don't use pencils. We've got one excellent. Okay, let's see what we got. Measuring the good. 2. Oh. Okay. We'll discuss that one. However, that's an article about measuring. So for everybody else, I want an actual measurement. Like you are going to say this is better based on this criteria. So, but that's a good commentary. Oh, someone found a paper. Again, this is a great one. We'll discuss that one. But that is about computer modeling to possibly determine how measuring is good. Ideally, I want an actual measurement. Can you find a way to determine why Brentwood is better or worse than other schools? Canada is better or worse than other countries. You may pick your own country. Why your sports team is better than another sports team. Go sports, go. Sports team, if you can't think of another example. Countries, and be a little better, because then we are trying to measure which country is like better to live in, more human rights. What sports teams work? Medicine would be a great one. Which hospital is better than another hospital? Healthcare, nutrition, cafeteria food when you decide to go to university. We had 4 boys return from their first year university, I think 2 years ago in Privet, lecturing the other boys, well not really lecturing, visiting in a house meeting, and we asked them what their number one advice was now that they've been to university for just, half a year. What advice would they give to the students right now to ensure they prepare? And they said, eat all the dining hall food you can get your hands on. You won't have enough, and what you have will be crappy. The dining hall food in the university is enough to make you wish you could starve to death. All 2 of them were going to the same university. One was going to a different one. So apparently dining hall food might be a good way to judge different universities. What do we got? Ben? Are you done yours? Then you have to submit it.
I didn't.
No. It's there as a rough draft. I can tell from here.
Oh, it says turn in.
Does it?
Like it's giving me the option to unsubmit.
Oh, and then mine's just not updating fast enough then.
I sent like another one in the private comments. So.
Oh, nice. Yeah, Actually, probably easy to do that. Also, keep in mind, if you want to edit yours, edit anyway. They all look fine. But your name will be seen, because the easiest way, I think, for me to do this is to bring it up and then just whip through the things and see what we got. Yeah, this is weird. It's a big, long row. It's huge.
Yeah, how did this happen?
I know, right?
Well, it looks like they probably cleaned that side and moved everything this way, and then they just naturally, someone over here probably decided to put a desk in the way. No, sure. Yeah, no, but that is, yep, that's the way to live.
Is this good?
I like how you're asking me if this is good when the assignment is about measuring good. Yeah, measuring good, no, that's a measure. Yeah. Did you just come up with that right now? Oh, no, I mean like you grabbed that from somewhere, came up with a list, put it, yes, submit that. Yes, but how? Like are you saying number of believers per population, something? And if you can find a measure somewhere that would be an example, that'd be even better. I'm going to squeeze through again, I'm sorry. Who do we got? Yeah, yours is showing is turned in now, Ben. Archie, how close are you?
Very close.
Okay, Zoe? Oh, I haven't done attendance yet. What am I doing? Is Zoe here?
But he's broke.
Everybody else should be here. Timmy's here, Ben's here, Lily, I saw Archie, Zoe's not here. Lisa is here, I just talked to them. Felix, Felix, there we are. Zane, Casey, Annabelle, Ava, Clara. Is Clara back?
Changed my life.
Nope. William K.
Yeah.
Yeah. William Lee. Yep. Kate. Violet. And Brandon. Brandon?
Yeah.
Yeah, you are. Hugo. Yep. Parker. Yep. And had Kieran Van Fleet. Kate and Anderson. Okay, now check. Lisa. Felix. Close?
No.
Come on over and see if I can help. Kate. Brandon, how you doing?
Yeah, almost done.
Parker?
Yeah, almost done.
Wait. Wait, look.
Oh, how would you measure the good of any two things? So the example I gave, how would you say this country is better than that country? What measure would you use? And can you find that measure somewhere online? You could also, which countries, you could do schools, you could do provinces, you could do anything. But how would you say this is good? That would be worse or not as good or bad.
No, you have to give an example. Customers are happy. Customer complaints. No, like Wow. Really? Just say company, restaurant. Just give an example. Yeah, give an example. Compare two things. Which one better? These are the guys that really want to run businesses. So it's not like it's all about the big. Yeah, they're going down. Examples, you have to compare two things. You have to actually compare two things. I compare China and Canada. So it's just like that. Yes. That's not like.这个东西现在才想得多，你看按照是就是我的。It isn't but that's not even for kids.
Come back, it's about to be real.
Can you double check that you have submitted it? A bunch just looked like they unsubmitted and then they went back in. Zoe, Clara. Kate, are you almost done? Is yours submitted?
Are they still that big? Really good. You moved up to the academy.
Okay. If you haven't quite done it, I mean, Kate is the only one I know of. You finished it up. The rest of you, put away your laptops. Follow your notes again. Let's get some examples. Claw? Laptops away. See what we got. National Library of Medicine. Measuring goodness in individuals and healthcare systems. We all need to measure quality healthcare, including the care given by individual doctors. Measuring goodness requires accurate data. Do current measures done without demoralizing and demotivating staff? If not, what measures should we do? Okay, so this one is not about a measurement in particular, but it is about the fact that in order to measure, you need good data, and good data is boring and mind-numbingly tedious to do. For example, when you go to your doctor's office in BC, if you see your doctor and you see them for 15 minutes, they may end up with about 45 minutes worth of paperwork. All of that they don't get paid for. They get paid for the 15 minutes they see you. They don't get paid for the paperwork afterwards, which is not quite like any other job, although apparently that has recently changed. Talking to a doctor, and they were a little happier that they're getting paid for slightly more of their paperwork. But if the paperwork isn't being paid for, and it's important, then it would be very difficult if it's bad data to measure from one outcome to the other. I'm trying to very quickly see if they give away. Conclusions are a good place to start. Want to measure absolute and relative performance or goodness as a mean to improve care and support informed choices. The measures used will meet attributes to a lesser or greater degree before writing. They do not say what exactly they're measuring. Maybe they do in this diagram. Straight data collection, 41% in article hernias are repaired as day cases. This compares, so this is an example. So in this one, they're giving an example of what they would do. They're comparing their rate to a national average. Their major quality issue relates to cancer surgery, so they're looking at where they're going and what they can change to do better. So they're trying to measure goodness. The overall paper is about how to do that with accuracy. So measuring cancer rates at a hospital would certainly be a way to do it. Healthy food. Healthy food versus highly processed food. This is an infographic. Zane?
Did it not go to the highlighted part?
Nope.
What?
Where's the highlighted part?
Hold up.
No, I'm scrolling. Just tell me when to stop.
I don't know when to stop.
In the advertisements.
Give me a good second.
Calories?
It's at the what are considered healthy foods section. Oh, I was right there. You just went past it. Yeah, there it is. So you go
There you
down.
go. Perennial. So how do we judge them? It's because these foods go through no or minimal processing. In general, fresh fruit, vegetables, pasteurized milk, chicken, fish. Sorry? That was an ironic laugh because one of these foods,
Beans.
they have been very specific about to choose the more processed one over the unprocessed one. Which one? Yes.
Milk?
Milk! They very carefully said pasteurized milk. They did not say unpasteurized milk, because unpasteurized milk can give you a disease that is very bad for you. It's rare. It's really rare. But if you have a country as large as, a country, and you're dealing with thousands and thousands of people, then some of them will get it every year. If you just pasteurize the milk, then you won't have those cases, and things will be a little bit better. However, if you live on a farm and you drink unpasteurized milk every single day, you are unlikely to ever get it. It is very rare. It's only when you're talking about millions of people. But I do appreciate that in an article talking about the dangers of processed food, they specifically mention a processed food. Healthy whole foods. So you can find a lot of articles like this that will tell you why this food is better than that food. And processing is a very common way of doing it. So it's a great example. What is processing? Yeah.
Isn't it like getting rid of the natural bacteria stuff in it?
Well, all bacteria is natural. But yes, it would be like, washing it would be a form of processing. Yeah.
Making them able to be longer preserved or taste better.
Yeah, well, putting it in a recipe is a form of processing. So as soon as you make something with it, it's just process. Chop it up, you've processed it. So when they talk about minimal processing, they're talking about you have done a couple of things. If you buy a whole apple, not very processed. It's probably been, maybe it's been washed. Maybe it's been waxed, but that's about it. If you are buying chopped apples, it's gone through one process. If you buy an apple pie, that's highly processed. If you buy apple cheese, apple flavored cheddar cheese food, because when they put food at the end, then they can claim it's not actually cheese. That is highly processed because they've added a ton of different ingredients. So, yeah, that's an article on why one is better than the other. How can you measure? Social Progress Index. Did you find a link to the Social Progress Index in here? Oh, he just gave me an article that linked to other good articles that gives a bunch of different things. Rule of Law Index. Let's go for that one if they link to it.
Were you supposed to give an article, or could you just like write your answer?
You just write your answer.
Okay.
I didn't give a lot of global rule of law recession continues.
Oh, actually,
Country information. Hover over any country in the map on the list below to view scores and rankings. So they are actively measuring the good of a country based on rule of law. I'm curious how they measure it, but they claim to. So weak. There's no adherence to the rule of law. Strong. Interesting. Canada, we're 0.8. Yeah, but not as good as these countries. What are they? Dark green, 0.85. They've gone down though. 0.7 for the U.S. 0.42 for Mexico. I'd be upset if I was Mexican. Venezuela has 0.26. Apparently, they don't have laws. Afghanistan, 0.32. I'm clicking on the red ones because I'm curious where they are. Myanmar, my sense of geography is terrible. I used to think countries over here were next to countries over there. There. Now, interesting. What's this one in the corner? Chile? And Argentina? And Brazil?
Where's El Salvador?
No idea. Where's El Salvador?
It's like, like
Central America.
It's like
under Venezuela.
It's like, oh, it's in here somewhere.
Yeah.
I know like they're like really bad at like games and stuff.
Well, one thing is like,
It's really tiny.
yeah, I have a pen this big trying to click on. Costa Rica, 0.68. What was Canada again? That's not bad. Just saw an article on Canada. Canada is apparently one of the money laundering capitals of the world. I think Bank of Nova Scotia was like high on their list of like, and they said, well, why is that? Canada's often coming up, and they said, well, some of it's a lie. And the other, because Canada commits crimes you can't tell as much, and they tend to launder a lot of money in countries that are perceived as being quite high with the rule of law because it's easier to get away with there because nobody thinks it's happening, which I thought was interesting. Overall score, Denmark wins with 0.9. So what is this, the top 10? We came in above Japan. Now I know this is a lie. Now, explore by issues, constraints and government powers. In this measure, what I'm looking at is the more constraints you have on government powers, the higher you would rank. So, for example, if the head of the country can absolve themselves of crime, then you would have something that you need more constraint on that particular power. Absence of corruption. I'm curious how they measure that. I don't know how they measure open government, fundamental rights, order and security, regulatory office. Now, I asked you for how to measure the good. They've said open government. How would you measure how open your government was?
How less money they want.
How less involved they are in society.
I think I might have confused you. What does open government mean? Yeah?
Like it's not very like privatized, like everything is like
Oh, public government. No, actually, no. Open means you can tell what's going on. So it's the difference between the budget being a secret and the budget being publicly accessible. If a minister makes a decision in British Columbia and underlings go and carry it out, can you demand to see the memos that were sent to the underlings so you can see exactly what they were saying? So open government just means you can tell what they're doing. It doesn't even say anything about whether policies are good or bad. It just do the citizens. So Freedom of Information Acts would all go towards open government. Now, how would you measure that? You want to see how open the BC government is. You write a letter. How could we measure that country by country? Yeah.
Can you just like see how you can track their money?
You could ask for all their. You could ask to see their budgets. Sure. You could do that to every country and see how many you get back.
Could you just like write the same exact letter to every country, and then whichever one gives you the most information off the same question?
Yeah. The news reporters will routinely ask for freedom of information requests just to see how much the government's willing to tell us. Sometimes there's stuff in there, sometimes there isn't, lots of times there isn't. But it's also just testing the government. Are they going to give it? What are the wait times like? You have a freedom of information request, and it takes 8 months to give you the information. It's not a very open government, even though technically it has the law. So there are ways to test these things. It would be great to know exactly how they do, and I'm sure in here they would tell you, because you could probably have criticisms. I heard a few exclamations of like, oh, this country, that country. Yeah, how they're measuring it, but at least they're measuring it in a way that they can compare, and they're coming up with numbers so that you can go and criticize what they're doing and see whether or not you agree with it. Good example. Oh. Yep, we have an actual document. Measures based on income and jobs. So you grab that off of a website, income and jobs, housing conditions, health, education. So income and jobs you probably can get from some sort of index, because we'd know what the unemployment rate was, we'd know the average income that people are making. Housing conditions, how do we measure that? How do we know how people are living? Yeah?
How much of the population have, or like have a roof over them?
Yeah. How would we know that, though? I mean, you're a government official in an ivory tower somewhere. How do you know how the peons are living? Yes.
Take a consent, take a census.
Yeah. You just go out and ask people. Hey, do you have a house? Yes. Is it your house? Yes. How many people live there? Just me. All right. You write it down and you go away. Are there problems with that? What are the problems? Yeah.
People could like lie.
People could lie. And sometimes there's no other way to get the information. So you always have to take those with, massive grains of salt. But we also can do studies on how accurate, if we have something where we can actually measure it and then go ask people and compare and get ideas for the error rate. So a lot of them, we just ask people. And then we can go through those and see different measures. It's a nice, pretty graphic. How do you measure success of schools for yourself, your academic achievements, your physical and mental health, social and emotional development, school climate, which can be both a condition that improves students' chances for success and a goal in and of itself. That feels like you got that right off of a website, because I've seen that in many school documents. They'll talk about their school climate. We just had all those case people here that were wandering around the school. And like, what's your school climate? And I'm like, it's raining today. Overall, now this is for yourself. You go from one school to another school and you're like, I feel better at this school and I feel worse at that school. That's a great measure for you. How would you do that to convince someone else? How would you measure that? What would you tell them in terms of data? Why this school is better than that school? Yeah.
The school has like better food.
Better food. You just liked it better. Yeah. They'd have to really trust you, I think, with that example. Yeah. Physical and mental health is a big one. Case was all over that as well. But again, they're looking for measurements too. And how do we measure that? Not here. And depends on what you're comparing. Yes, it does. Goodness of a person. How many people can say they're a good person versus how many say they're bad? 3-1, because goodness is based on how others perceive you. Ooh. So goodness is based on, so you just poll people. William? Where's one? There you go. We would just ask everybody in the class to vote on whether or not William's a good person, and then we would know. We'd ask everybody to vote on each other. You've done, we recently did a project where I asked you to evaluate each other. One of the standard problems with that I've heard from students about projects from not even mine, but anybody's that they do, is that if you have a person in your group and you give them a bad rating, then you will be punished in the next project. And so you better not. So yeah, the accuracy can suffer. Why Brentwood is better than Shawnigan, better academic ranking. So this is a huge thing that you don't even know about. All the schools used to be ranked in BC by academic achievement, because we had something that we no longer really have, although apparently they're starting to do it with the, you just wrote little exams for the government. We used to have grade 12 exams in every course. You write a provincial exam, and they would rank schools based on how well the students did. So this school, fantastic. This school, number 2, number 3, number 4. And every school in the province was ranked based on how well the students did on those provincial exams. And it provided an objective ranking, because the people who made the exams didn't care where the schools were. And then another group would take those results. They're not part of the provincial government. They just wanted to rank the schools. Let parents know, they said, what kind of quality that they're getting. Better, newer buildings versus Harry Potter looking buildings. Oh, Shawinigan's not that bad. Rankable by others. So, there's a few in there. William Lee. Customer satisfaction surveys. Oh God, you're gonna hate those if you ever work. A&W used to have, as soon as you walked up, a little tiny screen, and you'd say whether or not you liked it, and you'd rank it. If you give anything less than 100%, they get in trouble. They're like a pain. Because the only thing the managers see is way out where. They don't see how bad it was that day, that the customer was yelling at them or anything. All they see is those numbers, and if it dips at all, that person's at fault. They love numbers. So yeah, customer complaints, customer satisfaction surveys, asking people. Failure or reject rates are great ones. GDP, we talked about last day. Are you getting people coming back? That'd probably be even better than the satisfaction surveys. And unemployment rates are often used as a comparison between countries. And we've got, not, it says missing, but apparently you're here. Researcher developed instrument was designed to assess spirituality from a holistic measure forecast. Is this a survey?
It was like an article, but I didn't really finish.
No, that's okay. That is how to measure quality. That is, I think I made it move. The link is broken. I'm going to go try and get the link after, because measuring the good of religion, that is something that is brand new. I haven't seen that ever posted before. That's me. Violet. Well, oh, same article. Not bad, I moved on, but we've already seen it. How can you measure a country? According to the BBC, we measure companies by their GDP. It is a huge source of controversy because it's very easy to do. We take the GDP. What is the GDP from last day? Gross domestic. What is the gross domestic product?
How much is it?
Yeah. Yeah, because your hand is up.
Like the total value of products inside the country.
So in a country, if you get cancer, the GDP goes up. If your car breaks down, the GDP goes up. If there's an earthquake and all the buildings are destroyed, your GDP goes up because people are spending more money. That's really all it's measuring. How much are you making? How much are you manufacturing? How much are you spending? Where's all that money going? So a lot of bad things can happen. Bad things, GDP goes up. And there's alternate measures people have put out to measure like what, because it is a purely economic measure. But on the other hand, people or proponents of it will say, if people have money to spend and they're fixing things and you get cancer and you have treatment, that is an accurate measure of how good the country is. So GDP is a big one. Moral foundations. Click the link, please. Moral Foundations Questionnaire and Moral Foundations Sacredness Scale, assessing the factorial structure of the Dutch translations.
Yeah, they only want to.
I like how obscure that is. Dutch translation of the MFQ20 does not converge on the proposed 5-factor model. Okay, you're going to have to explain this to me. Did you understand what it was talking about?
Yeah, it's kind of like there's a questionnaire and there's a scale to measure morality, but it's from a Dutch document or something like that, and they like translate it.
Moral judgment is going
No, it's actually from an article.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. They are talking about that, and they are talking about how to measure it. The present study of the factors of the short version.
It's to measure like individual morality.
Yeah, but it does look like it's a questionnaire,
It is.
and they propose that they should be able to measure goodness from that. And Parker, you can't. There's no consensus on what's good. You can chance to believe that as long as it benefits the most people, that is good. Yes. Okay. That is a philosophical position. Good. However, this contradicts the first one.
Well, that was just what some dude said on Quora. So.
You can't just quote what somebody said on Quora. You have to take a stand. You're quoting it, I'm assuming, to back out your position. The more men and female benefit, the better. For example, putting a doctor in a hospital would be better than putting a clown, because this would create confusion. Yes, that is absolutely true. How would you, however, measure if both of them say they're doctors and one of them secretly a clown?
Because one will complete a surgery successfully and one will kill the person.
So surgery success rate can measure goodness.
But then also, if it's purely based on whatever benefits the more people, then wouldn't like universities who accept more people be better in the eyes of the law than like Harvard, for example, because they accept more people, benefiting more people?
Yeah, that's a criticism of universities. But is Harvard's
Harvard's been sucking lately, so.
is Harvard's mandate though to be good? Are they utilitarians? And I suspect no. Their job is to maintain their prestige, and often you do that by limiting it.
Although their prestige is like going to the Delta.
Well, in any study that has done a study on the quality of education of universities, there's been several done over the decades. Ivy League universities consistently underperform like U.S. state schools. Consistently. They're terrible. However, you don't go to an Ivy League university for the quality of the education.
Don't you just get it so you can put it on your resume?
That, yes, is the name, and clout. All the meeting all the people who also got into the Ivy League university is itself valuable. Networking, if you're going into business or anything else, sometimes can be useful.
Yeah.
Team member performance. Oh God. Attendance. The Privet boys had to get up earlier today. I normally give out their phones between 8 and 8:10. Today I did it between 7:50 and 8 because Ms. Allen has started taking attendance at our staff meetings. And I can't be late. She is clear, and she writes it down, and we get an email. It's like scary. I feel like a student again. It's terrible. Nobody should feel like that. No one should feel like that. Yeah, yeah. They're telling you what you should measure. Attendance is easy. I'm not sure I can't see one. Number of rubber ducks sold in a month. Number of calls answered. So they're giving specific performance measures. Yep. This also looks like someone is going to come give you a talk on how to be better business. And they always want numbers. Whoa. What is opening? Total people that are related to a subject and calculate how many of those are positively affected by that. Doesn't think they're holy cow, that's a formula. Take the students are around 500. Total students that are happy. Kieran, how are you measuring how happy they are? Surveys. And then we get a ratio, and we can do that in every school. Boom, done. That is fantastic. Air quality. Reject all of them. Go away. Oh, it doesn't actually talk about air quality, does it? Canada University is in the Dairy Plus, the Congo, and culture. Oh, woo! You said air quality. Now we have a direct comparison. These are things probably someone's going to look at before they move somewhere of what it's going to cost. In New York City versus Toronto, probably can find very different numbers in very different places. Canada looks like it's a little cheaper to live. So if that's your value of quality, which place is cheaper to live with healthcare, then that would probably do that. On the other hand, As far as I know, anything I know about the States I learned from TV. So I'm just guessing you can't own as many guns here as you can there. And so that would make Canada the worst place to live. That has a lot of good measures. National Library of Medicine, an approach for the accurate measurement of social morality levels. Was this the, yes it was. I love this. Sociologists do this all the time. They take a computer model and they program things in like a positive interaction's worth 2 negative interactions in terms of adjusting behavior. Or punishment is 5 times more effective than positive reinforcement. Or vice versa, whatever they think their rules are, then they'll throw it in there, and little dots will move around the screen and have interactions, and then they'll vote, and then they'll say, this is what people will do. And then they go out and check if people will do it. And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But we run simplistic computer models like that all the time, trying to measure if policies will actually affect the goodness of a population. That was a great example. Now, hold on, what time does class end on a Wednesday? 30, so I got a few more minutes. Because that was a long ways to get to the point. In all of these, almost everything that you gave me was some sort of hedonistic measure. A hedonistic measure is a measure of something practical, like number of surgeries done well. You could use GDP. The number of, what was another one that was up there? I have them all here. Price of bread. Really practical examples. That's called hedonism. Because hedonism is about taking something that's actually material and using that to measure goodness. Utilitarians very often do that. There's another type of utilitarianism, they're called ideal utilitarians. And they want to measure things like social justice. How many people have empathy? And so ideal utilitarians can sound a lot like deontologists, but they are trying to measure something that you can't really necessarily put a measure on in terms of counting numbers as easily. You might be able to do it by the number of restrictions and maybe court cases. You could say how many times is clemency shown if you wanted to measure empathy. So now this is notes. You've had all class to just look up things, and we've talked about things, and now you have to write things down in the last 7 minutes. Go. So the crucial question, which was outright denied by one, how are we going to define what good is? I think the one that got closest to the, ironically enough, was the law index. I think got closest to the ideal good, because they were trying to provide multiple measures to say how much justice is going on in here and how much corruption. It's not just that they are in a country that has the best health care or the most iPhones, but do they have does the public know, do they have the maximum autonomy? Can they hold the government accountable the most? And that seems like they were going towards an ideal good. They're not measuring widgets, they're not measuring healthcare, they're not measuring, they're trying to get at a measurement of an ideal, justice. There was a couple of healthcare examples in there. That might go on to the ideal side, depending. If you're just measuring the number of surgeries done well, and then you're putting that in some sort of GDP style case, countries that do more are better, then you're probably over on the hedonistic side. But if you're talking about people having a good quality of life, and you're doing that to try and get at that, and so it's not just number of surgeries done regardless of monetary or social status. That might get you at the ideal side.
Mr. Nouveau,
Yes.
do you have a pencil I could borrow?
Yeah, there's 1,000 of them over there. They're all terrible, are they? Come on, there's got to be one.
I tried 3 of them, not one.
Well, borrow one from someone around you, or you need something. Look, here's a fresh one. will go to the school store and I will register a complaint. Although I don't think we have much of a choice because we get it from Monk Office Supplies. And we just get whatever we get. Oh, and it just broke off. Yes?
What is the hedonistic? Can you like say it in other words?
Say what?
Yeah, what is no healthcare for old people?
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I want you to write this down because I realized in the last few minutes we're not going to have that much time. So, I'm going to start off with this side. Hedonistic. Hedonistic means material good. And so, if you are defining things on the max, do you have warm clothes in the winter? Do you have plenty of possessions? Do you have a roof over your head? Those are all defined. None of this cares whether or not you're happy. None of this cares whether or not you have empathy. None of this cares about anything to do with any emotion or social justice or anything like that. Do you have stuff? Monetary methods look at that. GDP would be looking at that likely. Because if we're spending a lot of money, people probably have a lot of stuff. If you're a hedonistic measure, you might say no health care for old people and severely defective babies because we can now give that to healthy people and get better outcomes, increase survival rates. There's always going to be a limit on a doctor's time. We don't have an infinite number of doctors. There's going to be some sort of limit. But if you are an ideal utilitarian, you're trying to measure not hedonistic materials, but qualities like justice and compassion, autonomy, cognitive awareness, then you're going to keep them alive not because they have rights, but because they teach the value of compassion to the rest of your population. We are nice to old people because that's a compassionate thing to do. If I see a young child, as I have a few times, with an insect, and they're very slowly pulling the wings off the insect to see it struggle, I'm going to have, some of you are frowning in the exact same way, like, that seems a little creepy. Serial killer, possibly. Maybe we want to drown the child before they grow up and become a part of a true crimes podcast. That child either wants to know how they work, or they like harming people. Both of those are different qualities. They don't have the value of compassion. We would tell them not to hurt the fly because we want to teach them the value of compassion, not because we like flies. Flies have almost, we would say, based on how many brain cells they have, no concept of self, and you're not harming them in the way you would harm even a mammal. But a small child doing that would still be disturbing because it's showing a lack of compassion. I am sorry to give you such a terrible example in the last minute of class. Hold it. Why didn't the bell go? Hold it. We don't end at 10:30. We end at 10:35. How dare you? I have 4 more minutes. We have like whole things. So to keep going, we have act and rule in terms of what are you going to do in this situation? Are you going to consider the picture and do the best thing in the moment? Or are you going to obey the rule because that produces the most good in the long run? And then we have hedonistic versus ideal. Someone's just been wheeled into the emergency room. They are an 84-year-old great-grandfather and grandfather of like 37 progeny. They've all shown up from the family gathering, and they're like, save Grandpa. And the doctor's like, what's he going to get? 2 years? We will save the heart that we could transplant because I think we can probably put it in a young teenager who will live a lot longer, contribute more, and we'll get a lot more good out of it. That might be a hedonistic. They wouldn't put it in so callous terms. But if you're measuring outcomes, and the outcome you care about is how long people live after surgery, then that might be your outcome. You're doing a hedonistic measure. You're not doing it based on ideals. Ideal utilitarian would say, no, we want to increase compassion among our population. We're obviously going to do it. They're first in line. They arrived here first. We don't want people to believe that they're worthless after a certain amount of time. And so to uphold our ideals, we want to maximize that ideal in society. They also get the surgery. So they're going to come to different decisions, even though they're both utilitarians. Ideal utilitarians will sound a lot like deontologists. Kieran, notes? I have 3 more minutes. I'm going to use those 3 minutes. Find a pen or pencil, put away your phone. Because we haven't put anything down, pen to paper, the whole class. It's at the very end. The criticisms of utilitarianism, which I'm going to give you some more, is definitely, with all of those, we can say, who defines that? Someone tells you that this food is bad and that food is good because processed versus unprocessed. How are they defining that processed is bad and unprocessed is good? Because I'm pretty sure that unprocessed bear liver is bad. Especially if it has syphilis. Ew. If we are looking at the latest poll, we're going to define good based on what people want, which is often a solution. We are now down to, it's not really objective anymore, it's not really ethics, we're just holding. What do people believe is good? We're not looking outside, we're looking within ourselves. So that's much more subjective. Yep.
What is a poll?
A poll? Questionnaire. And now I realized I started that and I don't know how to spell questionnaire. Is that how you spell questionnaire? Yeah. Okay, nice. Do you ever get a call like, who are you going to vote for this election? What kind of flavor of cheese chips do you like? People will call people. There's one town in Ontario where they put all the test foods and then poll people how they like them. Yeah. I got a text just yesterday asking if I was going to vote in the next federal election for the Conservative Party. Whenever somebody texts me, I don't care what it is, I always say yes. Because it ruins their numbers if I lie. So if I always just say agree with whatever they did, it fudges them. Yeah. Thank you.